Chapter 9. 3 weeks had passed since Prince Michael's had asked King Victor for his daughter's hand in marriage. The king had happily agreed, but the princess had not. Now, preparations were taking place as Eliza and 2 other palace servants worked on the princess, perfecting what was to be her wedding gown. She stood on a wooden stool in her bedroom as 3 girls worked around on embroidering this snow-white silken material with small pearl beads to create vines and leaves growing up to the waist of the dress. The gown was beautiful and fit her slender form perfectly. The prince would be thrilled to see his bride such a thing. Hours passed, and eventually the gown was deemed perfect by all 3 excited servant girls. They all smiled as Eliza reached out a hand to help the less than pleased princess off the perch. She took the other woman's hand, and the lacy train of the gown hit the floor. She looked in the full-length mirror which had been brought into her room for the fitting, and her expression was sullen as she met with her own eyes. "I thank you all for your help. You may go now." Her tone was flat, much unlike the princess they had come to know. Eliza bowed to the princess as she spoke. "Are you sure you do not need assistance in getting out of the dress? Surely you can change into something else more suitable to walk around in?" "No, thank you. I'll be fine on my own." She forced a smile. "As you wish, princess." They all bowed and silently left the princess to her own devices. As the door shut and she was left in silence, the tears fell down her face once more. She sat on the edge of the bed as best she could with the multiple layers of lace under her skirt. She buried her face in her hands once more and trying to stop herself from crying. But it was all too much. She was giving her freedom to a man she couldn't stand. She sobbed softly, hoping no one would hear her. After a few minutes, she managed to calm herself down. Then there was a rough knock on the door, just loud enough for her to hear. "Please come back later," she answered, wiping away what remained of her tears. She thought it may be another servant. "What if I wish to see my bride?" It was Prince Michael. Hadn't he tortured her enough already? "Do you not know that it's bad luck for the groom to see his bride in her wedding dress before the ceremony?" She didn't leave the bed, hoping he would leave. "That is just a silly superstition. Now may I come in?" His hand was on the doorknob as he asked. "I'd rather you didn't." She crossed her arms, glaring toward the door. "Please go away." That wasn't a no. He turned the knob. "Then no." But it was too late as the door was already opening and the princess entered wearing a white tuxedo accented with a red rose. She grimaced at the sight, looking away from him. He smiled. "You look amazing." She looked at him, but their eyes didn't meet. "I feel like garbage." "Cheer up, Bailey. Our wedding day is in a few days." He looked to her face. She seemed sad. Maybe even depressed. "It's supposed to be the happiest day of our lives." He walked toward her. "Well, until the day you give birth to our heir." Her eyes widened at his words. She had been so preoccupied by the wedding and all the preparations for that she had forgotten she would be bearing the man's children. Her voice was shaking and breaking. She couldn't stop the tears from rolling down her cheeks. "Correction, Prince Michael. Your wedding day. I've wanted nothing to do with this from the start." She sobbed into her hands. Something inside the prince twisted, seeing his bride in tears. She was truly miserable, and he was to blame. He groaned softly, frowning. "May I sit down?" He motioned toward the bed. She looked up to him, eyes bloodshot from so many salty tears, and nodded. He took a seat beside her, looking into her eyes. "Bailey, you are a wonderful, intelligent woman, but I must ask, why don't you want to marry me? I am a prince. I give you anything you desire, and yet you still seem so miserable at the idea of being stuck with me. She listened until he was finished speaking and then cleared her throat, wiping the tear stains away from her face. I do not wish to marry you for 2 reasons. 1, I'm simply not ready to marry anyone, not just you. And the other? He raised an eyebrow, now curious. So it wasn't just him that was a problem, but the princess was simply unprepared to give herself to someone. That made sense, as she still had a great deal of life ahead of her. The other reason is because I've seen how you treat others, especially those of lower rank than yourself. She paused for a moment. He said nothing. I'm sorry, but I cannot see myself married to a man who treats his servants like dirt. I see. He looked away from her. Hadn't they already talked about this? And you think I can't, or am unwilling to change? Many people can change. The question is, will you? Then all I ask for is a chance, princess. A faint smile came to his face. Then I'll give you one. Prove to me that you're not a spoiled brat, and I'll marry you against my better judgment. I accept, princess. And after that, we will finally be married. She sighed. We shall see. You have 3 weeks to prove yourself. If he did prove he could beat her challenge, then he would make a fine husband despite the events of the past few weeks. She looked down to her lap, realizing she still wore the wedding gown she had been stuffed into. She turned her attention back to him. Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to get out of this dress into something with less lace. He left his place beside her as she tugged at the high collar of the gown. Very well, I'll call your maids to help you. Unless, of course, you like my assistance. He grinned. She rolled her eyes and annoyed. No, thank you, I'll be much more comfortable with my maids. But it'll only take a few moments. You're welcome to wait outside if you like. He pulled the rope, signaling the servant woman to return to the princess's chambers. In that case, I'll see you in a few minutes. He then left the room, shutting the door behind him. The room was silent for a few moments before Eliza and the other two maids entered. Yes, princess, you called? Eliza asked. Yes. It seems to me that I do need your help removing this gown. She rose from the bed. As you wish, princess. The three worked at undoing the fastenings at the back of their dress, as well as the knotted ribbon that kept the dress secured at her waist. In a short amount of time, the princess was stripped of the unnecessary gown and dressed in a simpler, light violet dress with short sleeves. A welcome change from the long sleeves and the train of the gown. 15 minutes had passed before Eliza opened the door, poking her head into the hallway. The prince was leaning against the wall, waiting to be allowed back into the bedroom. Princess Bailey said you may enter now. She smiled. He left his place as the woman backed into the room, holding the door open for him. He found the princess clothed in a much less intricate gown. He smiled, finding her quite beautiful regardless of what she wore. She stood to greet him. Now, I'd be happy to walk around the gardens with you if you wish. She smiled. She would see how long he kept his temper in check, or how long it took him to crack. Whichever came first. As you wish, princess. He offered his arm. And please, if I told you before, my name is Bailey. She took her arm in hers. as they left the room together. Of course, my apologies. He kept his smile as they walked down the hall. This was going to be a long day.